Hello, my name's Thomas Park, and I'm one of the founding members of Resonant Locations. We began a couple years ago. Basically, I had been inspired by some shows I saw at some really nice churches and sacred spaces here in St. Louis, and I decided that I'd like to do something like that, but none of the churches would allow me to book them. So I decided that maybe I should look at other spaces other than churches. And so I was thinking maybe some very large empty spaces would be good, possibly some spaces with very few people in them. And so that became this idea of resonant locations. In as much as possible, sure, we the musicians were playing, but more than anything, it really wasn't us, but where we were. The setting was really making the music happen as much or more than we were. And so we became a band, Resonant Locations, and my fellow musician, Gabe Rains, who had moved to the Midwest recently from California, escaping all the cool culture there for the nice, relaxed emptiness of the Midwest, agreed with me to participate in the band. So our first gig was at Chesterfield Mall, and when I was growing up, one of the greatest cultural events was to go to the mall, where, among other things, we had Hot Topic for Gothic culture and clothing, as well as humor and gag tricks and things we could buy. Nice racy cards for people who we were dating if we wanted to get kind of R rated. You could find them there at Hot Topic. And so there was that great culture center, a record store where you could buy almost any radio top hit you would want to buy, including classic rock, which you would never really hear at all on the radio, but could buy there at the record store. Other elements like a food court where you could sample cuisine from all over the world, and good examples of it, whether it was from the East or pizza from Italy, or you could even have a taco from Mexico or Mexican style taco, although it really would have probably been an American style Mexican taco. So I guess it would be an Amerimex, Missourimex taco. But it made the tacos really that we wanted here in Missouri, and it helped us to experience that ole trip of Mexican culture. After our Chesterfield Mall gig, Resonant Locations, that is Gabe and I, decided to try to play a gig down on the Arch Grounds here in St. Louis. And I contacted the people at the Arch Grounds Park, and they said, well, as long as you're not very loud or conspicuous and there's not a baseball game, you can play there for a while. We set that up, and one evening brought some instruments to the Arch Grounds along with a percussionist named OV, and we played a little set there, and it was very relaxing from afar. And at the end, we even had a friend come by, a nameless person who'd been traveling across the United States and had some beer in his backpack and wondered if he could play along with his guitar. Right about then, we realized that we were really tired from the gig and decided to cut it short. by the success and local recognition of our Archgrounds performance, we moved ahead, and I'd done some calling, and Gabe and I wanted to perform in a underground parking garage at Washington University. And so I spoke with some people there, and the guest services pointed me towards the police, the local campus police, and they pointed me back to the guest services. And so I spoke back and forth to several people, 8 or 10 or 12 times. And finally, a woman confided me, and she said, "Well, basically, as long as you don't say anything about it, probably no one will ask." After the Washington University performance, Gabe had a great idea of performing at the Rootwad Park, which is a little concrete installation that was inspired by and designed by Bob Casilli. Rootwad is a real installation. You can go inside of the sculpture, and at that performance there was Gabe, myself, and then there were also Riley and Ov together. It was our largest gathering, and it made kind of a desert caravan effect, a bit like smoking a lot of hash or doing opium and walking across some kind of Tunisian sand expanse. Our next performance was really kind of a personal, more emotional, uh, almost intimate performance at Tower Grove Park, where the idea was that, well, actually, it was my idea, was to sort of blend in with the natural sounds of the park, the birds chirping, the wind through the leaves, the grass bending, the trees creaking. Next, Resonant Locations traveled in our original configuration of Gabe and myself to a small abandoned airport outside of town. And Gabe was nice enough to take the band van out. And we went about 40 minutes outside of town. And we went out to the space and near St. Clair, Missouri, which is another cultural hub that a lot of people haven't seen, where you can find some gas stations and restaurants and even a general store or two. But not only that, there's an abandoned airport. Gabe and I agreed we'd better be careful out there because it looked like it could be that some of those country police might be looking around. Our final performance for Resident Locations was once again Gabe and myself in the stripped down but essential crew. And I wasn't sure that this was going to be the final performance, but I guess some poetry happened here. The two of us went out on a very frigid and uncomfortable, windy evening and just drove around the city until we found a vacant lot.